Obvious one first up, Luke Parker. Does he come straight in this week?
We haven't made the decision whether he actually plays or not this week, so he's got to get through training and do some contested work. He's done some of that last week, and then he needs to ramp that up this week. And then it's a matter of if he gets the all clear, whether he plays at VFL or AFL level, and because he's missed a lot of footy. So we know he's a quality senior player. But the first step is how he goes at training and how he feels himself. Speak to the doctors and see how the week progresses.
If he does come in, is he likely to spend most of his time at half forward?
We haven't got to that point yet because we've just wanted to see how he goes. He'll do an element of contested training today and increase that from last week and just see how he feels. We didn't want to get to that point until we see how he goes at training and then take it from there. And once again, we'll weigh that up, how he feels, what the medical staff say, and then he's look at his preparation overall and make sure we get that right. And it's important for him to be there for the season, not just for one game.
Obviously, we saw Brandon Campbell start as the sub on the weekend. Can you just talk us through that decision? And was it just about finding a way for maybe come back to the team, or was it just a reflection of picking the best sort of 22?
Well, it's a combination of a few things. It's never one thing, but I mean, we felt like on the weekend we needed to ramp up our pressure, and we felt that Wixie coming in would have done that across our half forward line, and having Braden as sub, he can play in all different roles. So that was the best team for last week. What it looks like this week, we sort of haven't got to that point, but we're mindful also of you have a manager, whether it's the bye, Wixie was sub for a number of weeks, and so you need to make sure you don't spend too much time in that space. They rotate those guys who have done that job for us and done it pretty well. So they still need to have some match fitness and get the balance of that right as well.
A few guys sort of came off during the game, but came on for different reasons. Obviously, Tom down back with his knee and Blake's with his ankle. How are they tracking this week?
We're hoping they'll both be okay. They're both pulled up pretty well. They'll do some running in that today and do a little bit today. They won't fully train, but hopefully fully train later in the week. So that's the plan. The good thing is they were able to both play out the game. That's always a good sign, and they pulled up pretty well the next day or two afterwards. So hopefully they'll be okay. We won't know until later in the week, but we're hoping they're okay.
You speak about delivering pressure so much. Few delivered as much as James Rowbottom. So how much do you celebrate his 100th game considering that this week?
Yeah, he's the #1 tackle player in the competition. So he's got the highest tackle total in the comp, and he's one of those guys that knows what he's good at and does it really well, consistently. And if I sort of talk about whether you play to your strengths, he plays to his strengths. But if you sort of imagine what James Rowbottom plays like, I think everyone's got a clear picture of that, and that's why he's been such a consistent and valuable player for us for such a long time. And he's only young, he's still only 23, and to play 100 games of footy, he's played a lot of footy. He's a key component of our midfield, and he knows what his job is, and that's he gets after the opposition and puts enormous heat on, which hopefully affects the opposition's ball movement. But he's also, he's an important player in our midfield, not just with pressure, but also structure and what he knows to do in certain situations. So he's been a really valuable player for us.
When you play teams, there's no easy games in the AFL, we all know that, but when you play teams that are maybe a bit low in confidence or struggling a bit, you're warm favourites against, how important is a player like that to set that pressure tone and make sure there's no lapse in concentration?
I think it's always important, no matter who we play or what the opposition's doing. It's always important to keep that as a focus and have him doing that and setting the tone is vitally important. We saw what Hawthorn did last week. They reset last week. They bring the mouthguards to training. They were really physical approach at training, and it translated into the game. Their pressure was enormous last week. So I'd imagine that they won't be straying far from that approach this week. So we'd expect what we're going to get, and we need to be prepared for that.
100 consecutive games for Ollie Florent. How big of an achievement is that in the current day game?
It's it's not easy, is it? It's a physically demanding sport that we play, and those guys to be able to do that and play 100 games in a row is a reasonable achievement. And Ollie's a player who's is a consistent player for us. Plays midfield, but also has gone to half back and done such a good job. And to be able to prepare yourself week in, week out to be consistent enough to play 100 games in a row is a real credit to him.
Just on Sam Weeks, how impressed were you with his game, considering what he had to go through? I guess the public nature of the reason why he was left out against Richmond, to come back and play like that. How satisfied were you with his performance?
Oh, he just went about his job, and that's all we ask. And any of our players, and Wixie did that pretty well. He was able to put pressure on. That's his focus going into any game, and is to put pressure on the opposition and particularly their defenders. But then he was able to hit the scoreboard as well, so that was a real bonus.
Obviously, we spoke about last year's injury problems that were around the squad, but for example, on the weekend we saw the BFL boys come up with a draw against last year's reigning premiers, like guys like Pete Laddams and Sheldrick, all putting in really good performances. How important is it to have that depth, but also really informed depth, kind of putting pressure on the senior squad?
Yeah, it's probably this time last year we'd had some injury concerns in our squad, and we'd had it for a number of weeks, and it was. It gets a bit challenging after a certain period of time. You can get away with it for a few weeks. This year's been a bit different, but I'm always touching wood. It changes really quickly, but we got to the stage where we need a strong squad, and week to week we need a strong squad, and over the course of the year need a strong squad. And if your VFL team's competitive and you've got some decent players playing well in the VFL squad, I think that's always a good sign, and we need to make sure that we continue with that, because that's so important. Things change so quickly at senior level, and a couple of injuries or a couple of players might drop in a bit of form. You need to have someone ready to go, and they need to be informed so they're confident to be able to come in and play a role for us.
Obviously back to the MCG this weekend, it's the one place you guys have lost this year. Is there any sense of wanting to go down there and kind of make up for it with a stronger performance?
Yeah, look, we lost by 5 points and we won a couple of weeks before that, so I think it's more about making sure we're attuned to what we're going to get, which is enormous pressure, enormous physicality from Hawthorn, and making sure that we continue to be consistent. That's what we aim to do. We're still aiming for that. We haven't achieved it, and so we're still aiming to get better. We've got a lot of improvement that we feel that we can give, and we need to keep getting better as a team and a squad, and we feel like an opportunity this week to once again keep improving, keep moving forward, and that's what the aim is.
And how's
just a couple more lads are at start.
How's Dane tracking at the moment?
He's going okay. He's running really well. He'll do some training this week. He won't be in line for selection this week, but he's coming along pretty well. So we're happy with his progression. Hopefully he's available for next week.
Let's ask about Joel Amartey for last week. How happy are you with the way he's going? What does he have to do to maybe perform like that consistently or go to the next level?
Sometimes it's about a number of things. I think to be able to do that consistently is a difficult thing in the modern day footy, to be able to hit the scoreboard like that. Certainly his kicking was really strong on the weekend, which he was able to get results from. But he played on a good player. So Sam Collins is a really good player, so he was able to use his footwork. He's got for a really big lad. He's big and strong, and when he hits the contest hard, he brings the ball to ground, and that's what we need from him. And then the other stuff is the bonus. He's got pretty good footwork for a big fella, and he's got great speed. That's once again a work in progress. We've still got to make sure that our players are consistent in their approach, their preparation, but then also our performance. And that's one of the things we're striving for. Joel's no different to a number of our players, and probably us as a team. We need to keep making sure that we try and keep being consistent.